got some power.
Yeah.
But you do feel like Richard Petty when you get in it. Well, another episode of Jay Leno's Garage. The car we're featuring this week, 1970 Plymouth Superbird. These cars have a fascinating history. When they first came out, they were kind of cool, I guess, and then they really couldn't sell them. In fact, some were converted back into normal street cars by taking the wing and the front end off. And then they became somewhat collectible. Then they became really collectible, and then they became icons. There's a whole wing car society out there now. It's really fascinating to see the whole gestation period of this automobile. Let's meet the man who owns it. This is Jeff Dunham. Jeff, come on in. Jeff, very funny comedian.
All right,
You've seen
Jay.
him on Netflix, got a bunch of specials out there. And he is a huge car collector. We featured a lot of his really neat stuff here. He had the Gremlins. Okay. Well, this is
You start with the Gremlins.
well, this is the flip side of having Gremlins.
You're right. This is the flip side. Absolutely.
is the
So
flip
thanks for
side.
letting me make up for that.
Yeah, and this is the real one. This is by real one, I mean the one everybody really aspired to. This has the Hemi engine
Sure.
and the 4-speed manual
Yeah.
transmission.
And by the way, I've never heard gestation used when talking about cars, but that's
Well,
fantastic.
it's the gestation period.
I
of
get
the
it.
car.
I get it. It was a
The
good one.
automobile. That's right.
Fantastic.
Try to educate. Have you noticed I'm also wearing the new Leno Garage shirt?
Oh, yeah. Oh, the denim shirt is gone.
Well, yeah, we're making these now. You can get.
Do you sell them online?
LenosGarage.com. Yeah, you get if you want to buy one of these shirts.
That's nice.
But tell us about why you wanted one. Did you always want one? What was your fascination?
I mean,
with it?
I think I've told you before. I got into the car game much later. It wasn't until I was well into my beyond the years you'd think you'd become interested, and I learned about these much later and became fascinated just because of the history of it with NASCAR and what happened with this vehicle. So 1970 is the only year that they made these cars, and because they were basically outlawed the next season because it crushed everybody.
Right.
I hunted everywhere for one of these things because there's so many knockoffs. You know how that goes.
Right.
Is people fake them, and I went through I think eight different ones to try and find this one. But this one was an actual barn find, and veterinarian in Ohio, Zanesville, Ohio.
Yeah.
Back in the 70s and early 70s, I guess when his practice was taken off, he bought a bunch of muscle cars, ones that he thought that would become valuable, and sure enough, this thing sat there and languished in his barn, and he put it on eBay, and we called him and tried to make sure that this was the right thing. We did all that we needed to do to make sure it was the right thing, and it was needing some refurbishing. So
Right.
good old Julius worked on this for a year.
Julius Restorations. He's the
Yep.
big
The Mopar guy.
big Mopar guy.
Yeah, and I mean stripped it down, complete rotisserie, everything done to it. Now, in 1969 in NASCAR, they said you had to produce 500 vehicles before
Right.
you could race a NASCAR. 500 vehicles to be sold in the dealerships.
Right.
And then the next year they said, no, you have to produce one for every 2 dealerships that you had. So back then for Plymouth, that would have been 1,920 cars.
So they made 1,900 and something cars. How many were Hemi?
135, only 135 with the Hemi, and 58 were stick.
Oh, okay.
That's it. And so then when you put that, plus you put the bucket seats, and then you get this color. There were 8 different colors.
Right.
This is a really, really rare
Yeah,
vehicle.
this is a desirable one. Now, I'm trying to remember, there was a Dodge version of this too, called the Daytona.
The Daytona.
And that had a little different roof. That, the glass, I think, was flush for the high-speed ovals like
Right.
like
And
Talladega.
the
and
fenders
whatnot.
on this were taken from the Coronet.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. And this, I think the front end, it's actually 19 inches longer than the regular Roadrunner because of that. And then, like you said, you got the wing back there. The other thing that cracks me up, you know what these scoops were right here?
I assume brake cooling.
Well,
Getting heat out,
the
or-
legend says that all the other, because this thing was just stomping everybody, they thought that this was some sort of weird ducting or something like that they'd figured out, because this was designed in a wind tunnel. This thing was done by the scientists. You know what I mean? They knew what they were doing with all this.
Now, were these the first cars to break 200 at Daytona?
Well, the Dodge Daytona was, which is the Charger version on that side of things, and so that was the year before in '69. Plymouth was trying to lure Petty back over.
Right, that's right. He had
From
gone
Ford
to Ford.
to
right,
Ford, yeah.
right.
And so this is what they produced.
Right.
And so when he came back in, he killed everybody with this thing. But the Daytona was the first one to go over 200 miles an hour the season before in '69. But then back to these scoops right here. It's some sort of an aerodynamic thing. Now, what it was is because they had bigger tires, and in the cornering, the tires would hit the fenders.
Oh, we're hitting the, okay.
Yeah, so they just cut a hole right here so the tire wouldn't hit the fender, and then they
Okay.
put a scoop on it, and it looks like something secret.
Oh, I see. Because there is no hole here. This is just...
Well, this is fake. This is the one for the dealership.
Right, to make the deal. Okay.
Yeah.
I get,
Hey, Jay, I wonder, do you know, did they do that on the Daytona too?
I don't know.
Okay.
I have no idea.
Me neither.
But the Daytona was the rarest. They only built, what, 500 or something?
I'm going to say 4.
I don't know. There weren't too many of those.
Right.
But this is the one everybody knows. This is the one that sort of pops up in your mind. It's got the Superbird and the beep beep horn and all that kind of stuff.
And like oh yeah, it does have the Roadrunner horn. You ready? Here we go.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, and like you said, they did not sell. They could not give these things away.
No.
Yeah.
I, as I mentioned, I remember dealers would take the front end off and convert them back.
Back into regular Roadrunners.
Yeah, because it probably wouldn't fit in most people's garage.
As a matter of fact, I took this home.
Yeah.
You know, my Batmobile.
Is shorter than this?
Yes.
He owns one of the Batmobiles from
Two.
the actual ones, or two from the
One
movie.
of the 66 and then one from the actual one of the
Right.
Keaton movies. And it
Right.
actually fits in the garage, and this does not.
Wow, that's funny. So you just have to leave it here, I guess. And they did the vinyl roof.
You know, I love the vinyl roof. I don't care what people say. You know, you have your Tornado over there, and there's no vinyl roof.
Right.
And apparently it was a dealer option on the Tornado.
Well, what they did, any cars where the roof, the paint didn't look good enough, or they would put a vinyl roof on.
Or if they'd had a hailstorm.
Yeah, that's right. It was cheaper to do a vinyl roof than it was to
fix the hail.
Fix the hailstorm.
I love the vinyl roof.
Yeah.
It brings out memories in childhood. I think it's fantastic.
yeah.
But I got to tell you, when we went to Zanesville, Ohio, and we found out Dr. Smith had this car for sale, he had a certain number that he wanted for it, right? So I thought, it was really weird. I happened to be doing a show not at the Ohio State Fair.
Right.
And I called Dr. Smith and I said, I'm going to be there for my show. Can we bring the tour bus over there and just take a look? And he says, absolutely. This is Zanesville, Ohio. So we land at the small airport there.
Right.
My tour bus is waiting for me. We get in the tour bus, and Dr. Smith called me before and he says, you want a police escort? I'm like, no. He goes, yeah, you need a police escort. I'm like, come on. So we show up, and it's one guy on a motorcycle. We got the police escort.
Right.
So we're going to Dr. Smith's farm. We get there, and Jay, it was everything short of the high school marching band was there.
That's funny.
Yeah, the whole time, it was like his entire family was there, his kids, his grandkids, everybody's there. They'd made signs, welcome Jeff. It was like the silliest
And
thing
you hadn't bought it yet, right? You were just looking at it?
Yeah, I was just looking, hey, wait a minute, maybe.
Now you gotta buy it.
Yeah, now I gotta buy it.
Yeah.
So it was, the family was great. They were so kind, and we took photographs, and I pulled out one of my dummies and did a little impromptu thing for him.
That's funny.
Yeah, and so then Dr. Smith and I got in for a ride, and I said, so Dr. Smith, he goes, let's talk about money. I said, well, I gotta go because I have my show to go to. I said, we'll talk later. He goes, well, there's not much to talk about. It's the price I said, and that's it. And if you don't want it, nice meeting you. Thanks for coming.
Well,
I'm
there
like,
you go.
oh yeah. I'm like, oh, okay, fine.
Good thing he wasn't doing your teeth. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought about it. We had it inspected. Had the guy come out and look at it, make sure it's the real thing. and
But
we
in
got it.
hindsight, it's worth more now, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
So how many miles on the car?
They were just a little more than 9,000 when we got it, and I think they were real miles. I don't know if nothing was undone, but who knows? Julius thinks there was more on it, but I don't know.
I mean, that's believable. It's not something you would drive every day, and in Ohio, you've got winter pretty heavy from October till May or whatever.
And the rest wasn't bad. They don't have salt
Right.
on the roads in Zanesville, but it was in the barn forever.
Yeah.
So yeah, it could be 9,000 miles. But he was the second owner. Dr. Smith was the second owner. He said when he bought it, it had beer cans in the back seat. The guy had trashed it, and he just stuck it in the barn, and there it was. But then Julius went through it, and I mean, it's as original as it can possibly be.
Let's show people what the motor looks like. The
Okay.
big Hemi engine in it.
Yep.
Pull these pins.
And there is a latch. I can find it. I know I can. All right.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah.
And there's the purple horn.
Yeah, the purple horn with the Roadrunner on it.
Yeah.
So I wonder, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
How many cars before 1970 actually had a like a cartoon character?
Well, the Roadrunner came out in '68,
Right.
correct? So that was a cartoon character. I'm trying to think. I can't think of any, really.
Yeah. So I know that the Levi's Gremlin,
Right.
that was one of the first times a company got together with a car company and created,
Right.
you know, that. So now we got the Roadrunner. Great.
Well,
But
that was the thing when they put names on it. You know, my favorite story that I had someone I worked with at NBC, and she's a lady, middle-aged lady. And she said she bought a used Explorer, and she said, "Do you know a good upholsterer?" And I said, "Why? What's wrong? The seat's torn?" She goes, "No, the previous owner put his name all over the seats, and then it's really annoying." I said, "Oh, well, so you want somebody?" Yeah, I want somebody to take, you know, fix it. I said, "Okay." I said, "What was the guy's name?" She said, "Eddie Bauer." I go, "No, that's the Eddie Bauer
Edition.
You got the Eddie Bauer edition."
Yeah.
She goes, "What? No, that was a model. That was the, you know."
When you're 3 sentences into this, explaining that,
Yeah.
you just quit.
Yeah. So it was like, remember the Bill Blass Lincoln and the Pierre Cardin? You know, that was the big thing. But
Sure. Another interesting thing is this is metal. This is not fiberglass. This is a
Right.
big old chunk of metal. And when you find them, they're always rusted and crapped out and all
Right.
that. So the only piece of fiberglass on this entire vehicle are the hood right here.
the covers. And these are, how do those open? Electric motor? I don't even know.
Let's find out, Jay.
Yeah.
I bet you it goes like this.
Yeah.
So if they don't open,
Do you need the key on? Let's see.
and the buzzer. This takes you back.
I
The
got
buzzer that makes you want to kill people.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing. So it's got to be pneumatic.
Yeah. Yeah, it works on vacuum, I guess. So.
Right.
All right, well, we'll try it later when we're running. Okay.
All right.
But certainly a very nice job. Look at that original style, or one of those battery covers with the Optima underneath it, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what were these rated at? These are 425 horsepower. But
Yeah,
probably
which
closer
is
to-
almost 1-to-1 there. So 426 is 425 horsepower,
Yeah,
0 to
probably
60 in 5.5 seconds. And I guess the actual Roadrunner was a little bit quicker off the line,
Yeah.
but at high speeds, because
Yeah.
200 freaking miles an hour.
Yeah, that's,
Plus.
that's something.
Yeah,
That's
and then
something.
they were outlawed the next season because Petty was tromping everybody with this thing. So the next season after Petty tromped everybody, in the 71 season, they changed the requirements. So you had to run a 305 or you had to put more weight in the car.
Oh,
Because the
okay.
power to weight ratio was way off on this thing, and that's why he beat everybody.
Right. Well, when Petty ran in Daytona, he ran, I think, drum brakes going 200 miles an hour. Or something
That's
like that.
frightening.
But it's all relative. You know, I was a kid. I remember going to the Smithsonian, seeing Alan Shepard's little capsule that he circled, that he went up in space and came down. I thought, I'd sit in that. That doesn't seem like, because that was the highest tech thing. You look at it now, you go, I'm not getting in that garbage can. You know, Jesus.
It's the same thing. Yeah, one of the Apollo capsules is there. It literally looks like a bunch of guys built it in their garage.
Right. Yeah.
Which I guess is kind of what it was.
Yeah. Well, very nice. Here, let's shut the hood again.
All right.
I'll let you shut it.
The only thing missing in this car that Julius left off, and he left it off on purpose, was the sound deadening mat that was up here.
Yeah.
And he said he left it off because they loose and they get loose and fall down and they're pain in the neck. And
Right.
So, but otherwise, everything is to the nines here.
And you want to hear the sound anyway.
Yeah, why not?
Let's bring it down.
If you scratch it with this little hook, I'm going to make you sign the scratch.
There you go. Well, let's go around. Come around the back. Let's show the rear end. And this is probably the most prominent feature of the car, the wing. It's so prominent. And this is metal, isn't it? It's not fiberglass.
Yeah. And you know, the rumor was, you know, people question why was this thing so high? Was there some special aerodynamic secret? And one of the guys that formerly worked there years later said that the reason that the wing was so high was that so the trunk could open.
Oh, that's right. You'd hit the, yeah.
But that apparently was incorrect.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. So I guess it really was something halfway secret
Well,
about it.
if the wing was here, it would hit, right?
Yeah. But apparently that wasn't really the reason. I don't know.
And you carry a full-size spare. Look at that.
Yep.
And it costs a giant trunk.
Keep a few bodies in there.
Yeah. And the
And-
dual exhaust, very sexy.
Yep.
Now, what is the actual official color of this car? Is it? We say Hemi orange. Was that the name? It wasn't Hemi orange.
Hemi orange is a little bit different. This is vitamin C.
Okay.
And it's a little bit more dull. And I said earlier that there were 8 colors. There's actually 7 colors.
Okay.
I said 8 because I got it when it was faded.
Yeah. Hemi orange was the color of the block.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was the difference.
It's a brighter orange, too.
Yeah. And those, of course, the stock tail lights.
This is one of those running down the road that people who don't know what they're looking at are like, what the hell? That is the ugliest thing I have ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And the guys that do know, you know it's something special.
Yeah, I mean, you sort of have to know the story and the history and Richard Petty, and this is what it took to go 200 miles an hour.
Yeah, and you know, another reason they banned it was because the 200 miles, the technology, 200 miles an hour, the technology had outpaced the tires, the technology of the tires. So it was incredibly dangerous to be going that fast with tires that wouldn't handle it.
Right, right. I mean, and these are biased plies, right? Or polyglass. I remember, these would, you could spin these tires with a 6-cylinder engine. Yeah.
So when we're driving this thing, it's kind of crazy. Even when you're going 70 miles an hour down the freeway, it's unbelievable to think that it went 200 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a 70s car. It's like, it's not tight.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's, but it's still an iconic piece of history. I mean, you got a big Plymouth thing on the side. I mean, this makes a statement, you know, you can't.
Oh, and when it was, when Julius was working on it, let me walk over here and show you this.
What's that?
Right here. This piece, so when this thing was all in pieces, one of the things I loved about it is they really did piece this thing together just to make it this car. And when this mat was gone underneath, you couldn't see it, the original rear window bottom mount part of the frame is still there underneath that mat.
Oh, is that? And they just covered it up?
Yep, they just covered it up, yeah.
Yeah, because it looks a little weird the way it comes out here.
Yeah, and these little pieces, I think are just added, right?
Yeah, those are added. Well, let's put it up in the air next door. We'll put it up on our Stella Kearney lift and show people what the underside looks like, what a full restoration looks like.
Done the right way.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, on a rotisserie. Yeah, come on, we'll show you what it looks like, and then we'll take it for a ride. Well, we've got Jeff's 1970 Superbird up on our Stella Kearney lifts here, so you can see underneath. This is what you call a rotisserie restoration. Now remember, it's not supposed to be a Pebble Beach restoration where everything is shiny. It's supposed to look exactly as it looked coming from the factory, correct?
That's what Julius does the best.
Yeah.
It looks like it came from the factory. He does the overspray.
Right.
He does all the marks, all the markings on it. So this literally looks like you drove it out of the dealership.
All the correct stickers here, and yeah, all of that, you know.
Yeah. And by the way, Jay, I think I've told you this before. When I get a car, I don't care how valuable it is, how much it's worth. It's supposed to be driven.
Right.
So
right.
I know this thing is worth, you know, a boatload of 6 figures easily, way big number in 6 figures. So it's a lot of money. But I take this thing to lunch. I take it to go get coffee. We drive around. I take it to shows.
No, I think that's really good. I think that's really good.
And plus, I got to get miles on it because it's basically a brand new motor.
Right.
Yeah. So, you know, I want to break it in.
Okay. I wonder, does anybody notice this have more leaves than the standard sedan in the back spring? Just little things like that. I don't know. You know, send us a comment if you know, if you're an expert on these wing cars. I certainly am not. I'm learning from Jeff just as you guys are. It seems pretty stock Plymouth sedan underneath. You got your dual exhaust mufflers here. These don't appear to be anything different than a standard. You know, they didn't have special Superbird glass packs or anything of that nature. I don't know whether they did or not, but oh well, here you go. I guess back here you got get you a little bit of sound. I'm amazed at how quiet it was actually.
Oh yeah. It's a little disappointing.
Huh?
It's a little disappointing.
Well, it's kind of refreshing because that's what they weren't noisy from the factory. You had to meet certain standards, you know. So I mean, I kind of like the stock sound. Make it a little bit louder, but you can see just beautiful the way Julius has done all of this here.
Yep. The guy knows what he's doing. He's such a soft-spoken guy, too. It's like, and he's just a genius at his work. And he loves it. That's the best part.
Yeah.
He really loves it. He goes, I don't have to do this.
Well, a lot of times when you take your car to someone who's not an expert in that mark, you're now paying the guy to learn what you already know.
Yeah.
He's got to get the books and read all of this, and read all. So you want somebody who's an expert. Like for Duesenbergs, I go to Randy Ema. He's the Duesenberg guy. For Mopars, you go to Julius. You know,
he does this stuff in his sleep. It's,
I mean, all just the correct paint here on the on the bolts and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And these seem so incredibly fast.
Right.
Back in the day.
Right.
You know, but that day was 40-something years ago.
You know, it's funny. You're driving down the road, and you're like, I'm a badass. Look what I'm driving. And then somebody goes by in a Kia that'll do, you know, twice the acceleration of this thing. Like, oh man.
Yeah. But this has the history.
Yeah.
And it does get the looks when you drive. You can't follow anybody in this car. You know? You can't be incognito.
That's right.
Very nicely done. Well, it looks like a brand new gas tank.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, everything was perfect when I got this car. But when my buddy and I, Matt and I, went to pick it up, we're driving it home, and we're hearing this, and he goes, "What was that?" I go, "I don't know what that was." and we weren't sure what it was. The only mistake Julius made, apparently he hadn't tightened these bolts down, and we fired an exhaust tip off the end.
That was right.
Yeah. And it ended up in somebody's grill, I think. I don't know where it went.
Well, you got another one, so
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
Very cool. Nicely done. Well, it's time to take this thing for a ride. Let's see if it lives up to the legend.
How is your left leg?
My left leg is okay. Is the clutch pretty stiff?
Oh, it's pretty stiff.
You know, I drive so much stupid stuff with airplane engines, so I don't mind a stiff clutch. I bet it's not that bad. I bet I don't even notice it.
I got to tell you, pulling in your garage, it's a long way down there where
Yeah.
we were doing the first place we were
Yeah.
talking. My leg was tired when we got there.
That shows you how out of shape we really are. All right, we're inside Jeff's Superbird here. It looks pretty much standard Plymouth dashboard, nothing different, right?
No, it's great. Everything. I mean, the steering wheel, the whole
Clock
deal.
here with your tack behind the clock, which is so funny.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I again, that's what I love. I love cars being stock exactly the way they were out of the factory.
Right.
Because it's the smells, it's everything, just the textures that can take
And
you
I always
back.
remember these little things like the buttons being slightly off center.
Right.
You know, it's just a couple of UAW guys in lunch hour putting this thing together. You know.
Yep. Yeah, and
Like-
it's just kind of crap. It's all crap.
Yeah,
but-
and you got the AM radio. I like off heat defrost. Thank you. Heat or off. Thank
That's it.
you.
Yeah. Well, you know what's great is okay. So we got that, but still with today's modern technology, you can still charge your iPhone.
Wow,
with
look
the
at
thing.
that.
Yeah,
The
see?
age we live in.
Nicely done,
Yeah, but you
yeah.
ruined the effect. Get rid of
You're
that.
right, get rid of that.
It's-
You know what I did this so many times as a kid. I'd question my own intelligence on a regular basis. I would go, I don't think that lighter is working. Do you know you know how you say there's nothing hotter than a pie from like Jack in the Box?
Right.
Right? Well, this is the
No.
hottest metal ever.
I did that. I remember I went, what is that? Why was that red? And I went, ah! I was 6
Exactly.
years old. I remember
Okay.
burning my fan.
I was 28, but
Well, that's the difference.
Okay.
Some develop later than others.
exactly.
And of course this, the famous pistol grip shifter.
Right. Which I would love to have been in on the meeting for that. Right? Where they go, we got to make it a pistol.
Well, don't forget, figure the car was designed in the middle to late 60s.
Right?
What were the hot shows? Bonanza,
Gunsmoke.
Rawhide, Gunsmoke, Clint Walker, Cheyenne. I mean, there were Westerns, and this had a pistol grip hand
Wow.
shifter on it.
That's pretty great.
I mean, that's what I'm thinking. I don't know. Maybe that sounds a little off.
And I love the fact that it's still the crap plastic. And you know,
yeah,
the wooden ones that came
it
out
doesn't
later.
even pretend to think it's wood. Yeah. Well, let's start it up. No gas, just turn the key, huh?
I think so. Yeah. There you go.
Well, you know, I would know that starter noise anywhere.
Yep.
I like the cheap little thing that lights up fast the seatbelt.
No, but that's the reverse light.
Oh,
See,
that's-
that's the thing. Remember about
Oh,
the
that's
the
right.
front-
Just
yeah.
have it. Let's see. Does it work?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure.
Look at that. You're
But
in
you know what
reverse.
that's for is,
What's
you
that?
remember, it's the only way to get your key out. It has to be in
Oh,
reverse.
that's right.
That's the way Pontiacs work.
No, not Pontiac.
Oh, yeah, Plymouth, same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the.
I guess that's right. I forgot about that.
Well, that Trans Am that I let you borrow
Yeah.
a few weeks ago, that was the same way. You couldn't get the key out until you put it in
That's
reverse.
Well, let's see. I can put that pistol grip in first. It is a heavy clutch.
It really
Okay.
helpful. Yeah.
But you got power steering, right?
Yep. So, the one that Petty drove
Yeah.
when he was driving for Plymouth was what color?
Blue, I believe. Was there a separate Superbird owner's manual?
I don't think so. Why? What would be different? Nothing.
Well, they might tell you, like with the headlights. Let's see if the headlights come on now. Should I try it?
Yeah, why not? You can't see them.
Oh, they lift it up. Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
Where do you see it?
They're up. Okay, now they're down.
Okay. So what kind of guy you think bought these things?
Oh,
back
I think
then?
the same guy that buys, I remember a couple of years ago, they had the Chevy Monte Carlo with the Tasmanian Devil on it. It was a NASCAR.
Really?
Well, I mean, if you're a NASCAR fan, this was, and that's when NASCAR was really just crazy huge. That's when I love NASCAR from that era because you raced a car that looked like the car you could actually buy.
Right.
I mean, you could actually buy one of these. A guy bought one of these probably saw Richard Petty go 200 miles an hour in it. Oh,
So it was a.
There we go. We got to take it easy. It's a brand new motor. It's only got probably less than 50 miles on it since you finished registration.
Yeah.
So we're not going to romp on it. No burnouts. None of that. Just going to drive it. Put a few miles on it. Plus, in California now, we're in the middle of these wildfires. Almost all the roads up in the hills are closed. You know what the warranty was on a Hemi when you bought a new one?
What?
90 days.
But now they're coming out with a Demon that's 800 and something horsepower. And it's got the full warranty.
Right, exactly. It's got some power.
Yeah.
But you do feel like Richard Petty when you get in it. You feel like you just want to put your foot in. You don't even notice us.
No, doesn't see it.
Wow, it goes good.
Oh, it's great.
It pulls very nicely.
Yeah, at 75, you've still got a lot left,
Okay,
right?
we're doing 75. I'm barely on the throttle.
Yeah.
Imagine this at more than double the speed.
That's what I was saying earlier. Can you
Yeah.
imagine this suspension and everything at 200 miles an hour?
Yeah.
So you wonder back then, the guy that buys this, would a woman want to get in this thing?
I'm sure it was a cool car at the time. Sure.
No, it wasn't. Nobody wanted it.
Well, I think when it came out, it was one of those cars, the people that wanted it couldn't afford it, and the people that could afford it didn't want it. You know what I mean?
So you know they just did this, that they didn't care. They probably didn't care if they sold any. They just did this thing to get back into NASCAR.
Homologation, to get them into racing. That's why they did it.
Yeah.
Ford did it with the Gran Torino and all of that stuff. I mean, that's when a race car had to mimic a car you could actually buy.
What was the word you just used? Homologation?
Homologation, yeah, it means make it legal. It's got to be a car the public can buy, and you have to make so many of them.
Well, Jay, not only are you handsome, but you're knowledgeable.
There you go. That's right. I'm going to get homologated.
Oh, no, that's great.
You know, it rides very nicely, and it's fun to see what the car was like exactly when it was new. Because I remember in the mid-'80s, most of these were just beaten to death, you know?
Yeah.
Hot rods with, you know, straight pipes that cut off at the fender. They were loud. I mean, it rides like a normal Plymouth until you put your foot in, you feel that Hemi, and you grab the pistol grip shifter. I mean, it's intoxicating. I would buy one of these. I love this thing.
Yeah.
But you know, there are cars that are fast, and there are cars that make you feel like you're going fast.
Right.
And this, you've got the period brakes, you've got the period steering. So 70 miles an hour on this is like 120 and something else. You know, so it's all how you enjoy the ride. Like I'm really enjoying driving this. The clutch is heavy, but not so heavy as to be intrusive. I mean, I love this thing. I think it's fantastic. And you know what it is? It's like every time I get in a DB5, I feel like I'm in James Bond's car.
Right.
You know, because you smile because you remember the Bond movies, you remember the theme song. And every time you get in something like this, I think of Richard Petty. You know, I had Richard Petty on the show. He showed up with his blue one.
Right.
We took it around the oval down there at Fontana.
Yep.
And it was fantastic. So, I mean, it brings back, it's really how the car makes you feel.
And you're driving it, you're feeling like that, and you're getting on the freeway, and the the tach is screaming up at 4,000, and you feel like you're really doing something, and then something like a Tercel or a Corolla pulls up next to you and beats you, and you're like, well, wait a minute.
But you know, all the fun happens between 40 and maybe 120.
Right.
You know, above 120, now you're really going to prison. You know, above 100, you're going to prison, but.
Hey, man.
See, look at it, you just attract.
I'm not sure if he likes it or if he's laughing at us.
That's hilarious. See, we weren't doing anything. You just. As my dad say, that car attracts hoodlums.
Yeah. Well, it was a 65-year-old woman. That was the weird part.
Yeah, well, there you go. And it's nice with the stock mufflers on. I get to hear the engine a little bit without just hearing blah, 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 blah. You know, just people run straight pipes
yeah.
all the time, which is really annoying.
So you said, the warranty on the motor was
90 days.
3 months.
You got the Hemi, it was 90 days.
Right. Julius gave me 6 months. He doubled the warranty.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. That's pretty great. 6 months. That's amazing.
You know, they used to advertise this as a man's machine, you know, stuff like that.
Oh, you have the giant poster in
Yeah,
your,
yeah. I mean,
couldn't do that today.
no, you couldn't do that today. You know, we have installed it. It's not cammy. It's not, you know, you stall at the light. The plugs aren't loading up.
Right.
It's nicely tuned. And you know something? I like the sound.
Right.
If it was any louder, I mean, the color catches your eye, and the car attracts you. You don't need the noise to get people to look, you know?
So I've had 3 different theories
Yeah.
of what that grinding noise is in the stick. That. Do you hear that? Get it? There.
It's the,
Every one of them does it.
yeah, there's a screw in here with a washer on the other, so watch. You're holding the plastic and it goes away.
No, that's not it.
It goes away. Oh,
No,
why?
it's down. It's
Listen,
down here.
Listen.
Yeah, but it's not that. It's down here.
I know.
I guarantee you drive your car, you'll have the same thing.
Well, mine does have the same thing. I always thought it was in the handle.
I think it's down there. I have to ask Julius.
Well, you know, let's see what the comments come up. That'll be
Oh, that's a good
what they'll
idea.
have to
Okay.
say.
If they can hear it, but it's a
But now you have to join the winged car club.
I heard you say that earlier. You had an exact name for it.
No, I just call it the Wing Society.
Oh,
I don't think that's it.
But there is such a thing.
Right?
All right. So any winged car.
No, yeah. I mean, there are guys that know chapter and verse. They'll tell you who built your car, what day of the week. I mean, it's fascinating. They really know their stuff.
Hear that? Now it's going to bug you.
Now make it go away. But it rides and drives right now, and it's quite practical. You put 4 people in here.
Oh yeah, easy. It's not. You're not cramped back there.
No.
Great. And you can put 5 dead bodies in the trunk.
And it looks like an American car. No one's going to go, is that German? Is that a little English car? No.
Well, Jay, this was fun.
Well, I want to thank Jeff for letting us take this winged wonder for a ride here. As I said, it's a brand new restoration, less than 50 miles, so we couldn't really romp on it, but this is what it would have been like if you'd driven out of the dealership back in 1970. This is probably built to even higher standard than that. It runs well. Julius did a nice job. Thank you. And I think you're going to be very happy with this. You know, when you get about 2,000 miles on it, come back and we'll...
Good. We'll have some real fun with it.
Yeah, let's see if it does. It hits that 200 miles an hour. So.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll give it a shot. Jeff, thank you, my friend.
Thanks, Jay.
Jeff Dunham, got great cars. See you guys next week.
Mm-hmm.